Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's good to see you again. And today we're going to talk a little bit about Edgar Allan Poe, the American writer and poet. Now, some people only know him for The Raven or maybe one or two of his short stories, but he was a prolific writer and he wrote a lot. He died at the age of 40, which is relatively young, but in that time that he started writing, he wrote a lot of short stories and poems and even some critical works. He was born in 1809 to two parents who were loving and traveling actors, but unfortunately they died while Edgar was 3. He was raised by John Allan, who was a family friend, and even though John first doted on him, he started to sour on little Eddie. Eddie joined the army. He actually earned the ranking of sergeant major over the years and tried to go to West Point Academy, which is one of the best schools in the world. However, John Allan wouldn't pay for it, and poor Eddie was discharged for violating his duties. Mr. Allan died later on, and even though he had died, Allan's money wasn't even enough to keep Poe alive to survive on. So Poe decided to start writing, and in that time of his writing, he started to earn more and more money. So it took a long time for him to finally get to a point where he was wealthy enough to live on his own. But Poe did leave his mark on the world. He left his mark by contributing so much to world literature. Poe's theory of literary creation is noted for two central points. First, a work must create a unity of effect on the reader to be considered successful. And second, the production of this single effect should not be left to the hazards of accident or inspiration, but should be detailed. That was the thing that makes Poe so special. His writings were so deliberate, and the way he would craft a story, you can tell that he took his time to get down to the minutest detail to tell a really, really good story. Now, the short story that we are going to be reading is one called The Telltale Heart. Oh, let me tell you, I remember reading it for the first time when I was in junior high. It was a freaky story. It's not exactly the kind of story you want to read on a dark and stormy night, because the narrator is a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Now, The Telltale Heart is a story that Edgar Allan Poe had crafted while he was younger. And it tells a story about a man who goes a little crazy, and, well, I won't give too much away. You're going to have to read the rest of it for yourself. But here are some things you need to think about. What experiences do you think Poe might have gone through that made him write such a creepy and freaky story about a guy who goes crazy? What do you think inspired him? What would inspire a person to write such a story? Another question you have to ask is, how does Poe use language and certain word selection to craft the story that he does? Because he's very, very detailed the way he describes things. And it almost makes him seem obsessive, especially the narrator. Makes the narrator seem very obsessive over how things occur inside the book. So why don't you do me a favor? I want you to think about those questions. Remember, Edgar Allan Poe died in 1849, was born in 1809, and in his 40 years contributed a lot to what we know as the modern short story. So I want you to study up on those things, and when you get to class tomorrow morning, those are the questions we're going to be focusing on. I should tell you, The Telltale Heart told from a very, very unique perspective, first person, which inspired Fyodor Dostoevsky, who's my favorite author. The Telltale Heart, very, very freaky. You should really pay attention to it tomorrow in class.